Tonight, fueled by forbidden knowledge and a reckless ambition, I will taste victory. This is the culmination of years of relentless pursuit, of sleepless nights and endless days, all leading to this very moment. The boundaries of ethics and morality have long since blurred, replaced by an insatiable hunger for discovery and power.
Noah hunched over the table, eyes blazing with a manic intensity. His hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the sheer excitement that coursed through his veins. Every fiber of his being was focused on the task at hand, the culmination of his life's work. His makeshift laboratory, a cacophony of bubbling beakers and sparking electrodes, reeked of formaldehyde and desperation. The room was a chaotic symphony of scientific endeavor, each piece of equipment a testament to his unyielding determination. The air was thick with the scent of chemicals, a pungent reminder of the countless experiments that had taken place within these walls. Years he had spent chasing this dream, this impossible dream of conquering death itself. Each failure had only fueled his resolve, each setback a stepping stone towards his ultimate goal. The sacrifices he had made were innumerable, but to Noah, they were all worth it for the chance to defy the natural order. On the table, cold and still, lay the subject, a lifeless form, a vessel waiting to be reanimated. The room seemed to hold its breath, the silence almost deafening as Noah prepared for the final act. A recently deceased man, procured through questionable means, his face frozen in a silent scream. The man's features were contorted in a final expression of terror, a stark reminder of the fragility of life. Noah's gaze lingered on the face for a moment, a fleeting acknowledgement of the life that had once been. Noah paid little heed to the ethical implications, his mind consumed by the scientific challenge. The moral quandaries that would plague others were mere distractions to him, obstacles to be overcome in his quest for knowledge. His focus was absolute, his determination unwavering. He adjusted the electrodes, a surge of adrenaline coursing through him as he prepared for the final act. Each connection was precise, each movement deliberate. The room seemed to pulse with energy, the anticipation almost palpable. The air crackled with anticipation. Every second felt like an eternity, the weight of the moment pressing down on Noah's shoulders. The room was charged with a sense of impending revelation, the culmination of years of work and sacrifice. The clock ticked, each second an eternity. Time seemed to stretch and warp, the minutes dragging on as Noah prepared for the final step. The rhythmic ticking was a constant reminder of the stakes, the relentless march of time that he sought to defy. Noah drew a deep breath, the metallic tang of fear mingling with the intoxicating aroma of formaldehyde. His heart pounded in his chest, each beat a drum roll heralding the moment of truth. The air was thick with tension, the atmosphere electric with possibility. Tonight he would cheat death. The thought echoed in his mind, a mantra that fueled his resolve. This was his moment, his chance to rewrite the rules of existence. The weight of his ambition pressed down on him, but he welcomed it, embraced it. Tonight he would play God. The power to give life, to defy the natural order, was within his grasp. The enormity of what he was about to do was not lost on him, but it only served to strengthen his resolve. This was his destiny, his forbidden dream.
Are you sure about this, Noah? This is unnatural.
His assistant, a timid medical student named Daniel, watched from the shadows. His stomach churned with a mixture of fascination and dread. He had signed up for this, eager to learn at the feet of the brilliant, albeit eccentric, Dr. Noah. But this was beyond science. This was madness.
Ready, Daniel?
Noah's voice, usually calm and measured, trembled with barely suppressed excitement. His fingers danced over a series of dials, fine-tuning the flow of energy. The gauges flickered, reflecting the chaotic dance of life and death about to unfold. Daniel swallowed, his mouth dry. Noah just chuckled, a chilling, humorless sound, and threw the switch. The room erupted in a blinding flash of light and a deafening crack. A surge of electricity coursed through the lifeless body, muscles spasming, limbs twitching grotesquely. The pungent odor of burning flesh filled the air, choking, acrid. Daniel turned away, unable to stomach the sight. Minutes crawled by, each one an eternity. The silence in the lab, broken only by the hiss of cooling machinery, was heavier, more ominous than before. Daniel dared to look, his heart hammered against his ribs. The body was still. But it wasn't the stillness of death, it was a pregnant pause, a gathering storm. And in that silence, in the heart of the makeshift laboratory, something truly monstrous was born. The creature on the table drew a shuddering breath, a rasping, gurgling sound that sent chills down Daniel's spine. Its eyes, once dull and lifeless, snapped open, burning with an unholy light. They were not the eyes of the man who had died on that table. They held an ancient, primal hunger. It twitched, A groan escaped its lips, a sound of pain and confusion, of something not meant for this world. Stitches holding its mangled flesh together strained, threatening to burst under the unnatural pressure. The stench of decay, overpowering and nauseating, filled the lab.
This was not life. This was an abomination.
The creature lurched upright, its movements jerky and uncoordinated. It seemed to struggle with every step, as if its very existence was a battle against the natural order. Each motion was a grotesque dance of sinew and bone, a macabre display of life twisted into something unrecognizable. It swung its head around, taking in its surroundings with a mixture of confusion and rage. The dim light of the laboratory cast eerie shadows on its malformed features, highlighting the grotesque details of its creation. Its eyes, or what remained of them, darted around the room, trying to make sense of the chaos it had been born into. A low growl rumbled in its chest, a primal sound that spoke of a darkness beyond human comprehension. This was not just a creature of flesh and bone, but a manifestation of nightmares. A being that should not exist in the realm of the living. The growl grew louder, reverberating through the room and sending shivers down Daniel's spine. Panicked, Daniel backed away, bumping into a metal tray of instruments. His heart pounded in his chest, each beat a reminder of the fragile line between life and death. The cold metal of the tray pressed against his back, grounding him in the terrifying reality of the situation. The clatter echoed in the tense silence, startling the creature. The sound seemed to snap it out of its confusion, and its head whipped around to face Daniel. The air grew thick with tension, every second stretching into an eternity as Daniel's mind raced for a way out. It turned its head towards Daniel, and a gruesome grin stretched across its decaying face, splitting the stitched flesh. The sight was horrifying, a grotesque parody of a smile that spoke of pain and suffering. The stitches pulled taut, some snapping under the strain, revealing the raw, festering flesh beneath. But Noah was transfixed, his eyes gleaming with a terrifying mixture of triumph and madness. He had spent years chasing the impossible, and now, standing before the abomination he had created, he felt a twisted sense of accomplishment. His eyes locked onto the creature, seeing not the horror it was, but the success of his life's work. He had done it. He had cheated death. The realization filled him with a perverse joy, a sense of power that was intoxicating. But as the initial euphoria began to fade, a cold dread settled in. What had he unleashed upon the world? What horrors would follow in the wake of his success? But at what cost? S4, media, worried man, person urgently calling out, distressed man in a dark setting. Noah, we have to get out of here! Daniel's voice was urgent, filled with a fear that Noah seemed oblivious to. The creature was a testament to their hubris, a reminder that some boundaries were never meant to be crossed. As the reality of their situation sank in, the need to escape became all-consuming. They had to leave before the darkness they had summoned consumed them both. The creature lunged. It crashed onto the floor, the impact shaking the very foundation of the old building. Daniel screamed and scrambled back, his foot catching on a stray wire. He fell, his heart pounding in his chest, a drumbeat of terror.
Daniel!
Noah, finally snapping out of his daze, reached for Daniel, but it was too late. The creature was upon him, its eyes burning with unholy hunger. Daniel screamed again as the creature's clawed hand shot out, slashing at his face. The world dissolved into chaos. Blood splattered, screams echoed, the stench of decay intensified. Daniel could only watch in horror as the creature tore into Noah, its inhuman strength turning flesh and bone to pulp. This was his creation, his masterpiece. This was his legacy. Daniel, his face slick with blood and sweat, scrambled back, putting as much distance as possible between himself and the carnage. His heart raced, each beat echoing in his ears like a drum. The room was a chaotic mess, filled with overturned furniture and shattered glass, remnants of a struggle that had taken place moments before. The metallic scent of blood hung heavy in the air, mingling with the acrid smell of fear. The creature, its hunger momentarily satiated, seemed not to notice him, too engrossed in its gruesome feast. Its grotesque form was hunched over the remains, tearing into flesh with a sickening crunch. Daniel could see the glistening, blood-soaked teeth of the monster as it devoured its prey, a sight that would be forever etched into his memory. He had to get out. He had to escape this nightmare. The walls seemed to close in on him, the darkness pressing down like a suffocating blanket. Every shadow seemed to move, every creak of the floorboards a potential threat. His mind raced, trying to remember the layout of the building, searching for any possible route to safety. He scrambled to his feet, his legs shaky, his entire body trembling with terror. The adrenaline coursing through his veins gave him a burst of energy, but it was fleeting. He could feel the exhaustion setting in, the weight of his fear dragging him down. He had to keep moving, had to find a way out before the creature finished its meal and turned its attention back to him. He could hear the creature moving behind him, its growls echoing in the confined space. Each sound sent a jolt of fear through his body, urging him to move faster. The creature's presence was a constant reminder of the danger he was in, a predator lurking in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. He spotted the door, the only way out of this hellhole. It was a heavy metal door, slightly ajar, a sliver of hope in the oppressive darkness. He could almost feel the cool air from the outside world, a stark contrast to the stifling heat of the room. Freedom was just a few steps away. He lunged for it, his fingers closing around the cold metal handle. The sensation was a shock to his system, a reminder that he was still alive, still fighting. He pulled with all his might, his muscles straining with the effort. The door creaked, but it didn't open. It wouldn't budge. It was locked. Panic surged through him, a cold, paralyzing fear that threatened to overwhelm him. He couldn't be trapped here, not with that thing. He had to find another way. Daniel pulled again, his heart pounding in his chest, the sound deafening in the silence. He could feel the sweat dripping down his face, his hands slipping on the handle. He was running out of time. The creature would finish its meal soon, and then it would come for it.
No, no, it can't be locked. Please, no. His voice was a desperate whisper, a plea to the universe for mercy. He banged on the door, hoping against hope that someone, anyone, would hear him and come to his rescue.
Desperation clawed at his mind as he struggled with the door, the nightmare far from over. He could feel the creature's presence growing closer, its growls louder, more menacing. He had to think, had to find a way out before it was too late. The room seemed to close in on him, the walls pressing in, the darkness suffocating. He was trapped, but he couldn't give up. Not now, not ever.